Last week, U.S. Senator and 2020 presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders said in a CNN town hall forum that as president, he would restart American taxpayer funding for overseas abortions as part of his plan to fight climate change. Today, we'll discuss the idea of population control and extreme environmentalism in this episode of Analysis Behind the News, where we provide the perspective that you can use to help save American liberty and independence. If you're not a regular viewer of this program, let's first discuss worldview to help you make sense of where we're coming from. American liberty and independence are two precious benefits that we receive by adhering to the philosophy of a limited government that exists solely to protect our rights, as laid out in the Declaration of Independence. The application of that philosophy is written as the U.S. Constitution. Since its founding, the American experiment has been under attack by those wishing to see this country's path diverted into a socialistic paradise under a world government. These motivations, these plans, and these attacks have been recorded throughout history in various resources, including the 1798 edition of Proofs of a Conspiracy, which President George Washington actually made mention of, through the writings of Marx and Engels, including the Communist Manifesto, and even documenting the very words of past and current world leaders discussing their efforts to build a new world order, as they say. You'll find plenty of these instances from a simple search in YouTube. The war on American liberty and independence is rarely a frontal attack. Rather, it's fought from behind the scenes. And as generations of Americans are taught that America must yield to global progress, the scope and size of what was once American limited government has transformed into its current state, which has led to sitting congressmen to publicly state that, well, the federal government can pretty much do anything it wants. This type of practice is extraordinarily dangerous, especially when you apply Senator Sanders' plans for funding third world abortions and birth control as a way to depopulate and slow down climate change. Now, some news outlets thought Sanders' response was a gaffe, but as the New American pointed out in an online article, it was a gaffe because Sanders had the audacity to express the truth about how Democrats, many Republicans, and all globalists view the issues of population control and climate change. In the end, globalists and likely all of the Democratic challengers are of one view, that there are too many people in the world. Today's climate hysteria movement, in many ways, echoes the sentiments of the 1968 book, The Population Bomb, written by Stanford professor Paul Ehrlich. In that book, Ehrlich restates the Malthusian theory, which postulates that population control will eventually outpace the Earth's agricultural capacity and lead to catastrophe. Maybe Sanders didn't come right out and say that he would like America and indeed the world to adopt a China-style one-child policy, but he probably thinks it would be a good idea. Ehrlich, for one, claims that the Earth's optimal human population would be 1.5 to 2 billion people, not the 7 billion alive today. The climate hysteria movement, stripped of its pseudo-scientific trappings and celebrity and political followers, is essentially an anti-human program. Human beings and their emissions are the problem, they claim. Humans, they say, are killing the planet with their casual disregard for nature, and we need fewer of them, far fewer of them. Now, couple that with the desire to rid the world of many humans with the practice that the federal government can pretty much do anything, and you have the makings of a totalitarian society that throws out individual rights for the greater collective good. That angle should have been the focus for news media outlets, but it wasn't. And what did they focus on? The conservative backlash on social media to Sanders' comment, with some outlets ridiculing the backlash and suggesting that climate change indeed demands family planning. Now, that's their Orwellian phrase for killing children in the womb. Incidentally, the CNN town hall is just weeks before the United Nations Climate Change Summit. Now, the United Nations is the closest thing there is to world government, and it is gearing up, as it states in its own words here regarding their conference, to showcase a leap in collective national political ambition and to demonstrate massive movements in the real economy in support of the agenda. Together, these developments will send strong market and political signals and inject momentum in the race to the top among countries, companies, cities, and civil society that is needed to achieve the objectives of the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals. And we would throw in of Agenda 21/2030. It is this agreement and these goals that are reflective of an extreme environmental movement that is bent on controlling people, severely limiting their choices, and decimating their ability to govern themselves. And folks, you won't hear that on mainstream news, and you won't find an organization, except for one, that is willing to take on the globalist agenda head on. That organization is the John Birch Society. Now, we have three major tools in this fight that will help save American liberty and independence. They are, number one, a full-time field staff that organizes members to strategically educate the American electorate. Two, a news outlet that publishes a print magazine, daily online content, podcasts, and videos. And number three, a school that delivers classical education in the tradition of the Founding Fathers. With all of that, the John Birch Society reaches millions each month through its various outlets. But it is our organizational structure with our boots on the ground activism that makes this organization so effective. So if you're fed up with the march to socialism, then you're ready to place your efforts into a long-term strategy to save this country for generations to come. We ask you to apply for membership today at jbs.org. And for more on how Agenda 21 will affect you, watch our video on it. Links are in the description. And please, be sure to like and share this video as well as subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you then.